Hello, viewers and listeners. Welcome to the episode of Pathways to the Ivies. Today, on this episode, we have Miss Saumya Tripathi, an excellent counselor from the Good Shepherd International School. Good Shepherd International School is one of the most premium schools based out of Ooty. It's a residential school, and this year it has got some of the most phenomenal admits, including schools like Imperial, UCL, King's, Tufts, Emory, UC's, UCSD, UCSC, UC Irvine, Purdue, amongst many others. As a part of this podcast, we are going to pick Soumya ma'am's head, trying to understand the role of a college counselor, things that a lot of students don't really know, and things that could be beneficial to students watching this in the future. So, Soumya ma'am, welcome to the show. Super pleased to have
Thank
you this
you.
at such an early hour. Thank you so much for giving us the time. And if you can go ahead, and this was the introduction I gave to the viewers, but if you could just kind of let our viewers know what is it that you do besides Good Shepherd, and how is college counseling important, and why are you on this mission of helping students achieve their dream schools? That would be perfect.
I'll tell you, Rima, something. You used a very important word called mission here. It actually does feel like a mission at some point in time to us, because because most of the times, yes, there's a lot of administrative work that we do. There's a lot of so-called clerical application work that we do, and all of that. A lot of creative work also that we do. But there's quite a lot of time, almost like 6 to 8 months period where we are convincing people and we are trying for people to understand that, listen, you have a lot of myths in your head. And when I say people, I just don't mean my students. I mean my fellow teachers, whom my students are talking to also, and who are also influencing them. I also mean their parents, and sometimes even their siblings and relatives. So constantly on a mission to help them understand, um, give them a lot of data around things, help them balance the thought and the plans. So yes, it does feel like a mission, and the idea is not to place the child to at a top university, but the idea is to place the child at the university that is the best fit for the child. Because I have had students, and I'm sure all the other counselors that you'll meet will have had students who have, for that matter, gone to a top university, but have also in 1 year realized not a good fit for them and have come back. So it's so I think what I really do is ask the right questions to the students and help them seek answers. That's, I think, what I do in a nutshell.
That is a fantastic answer, and a great point you brought out here is a good fit. I mean, there are so many students who think if it's not the Ivies, it's the end of the world. Or they have these all hunky-dory dreams in their head saying that, oh, if I don't get into X school, my life is over. So I think one of the greatest point you brought across is a good fit. As a counselor of a school dealing with a cohort of students, how do you gauge the fit for a student? Like, an ex student is there, what are the questions you ask, or what are the questions that you suggest a student should
Hmm.
ask, or a parent should ask himself or the student, to gauge that am I a good fit for this school or not?
Right. So that is a very very subjective question in itself that you asked. Why is it subjective? Because for different kinds of students there are different kinds of questions also. um, so for example, I'll explain it to you with an example. So I have a student this year, very creative, highly aspirational about things, and she looks at things in a lot of perspectives. So if I give her an economics based question, probably that talks about the income of a certain kind of a social class, she will add the gender angle to it. She will add different other areas to it. She will add a little bit of statistical thought to it. She will also ensure that she adds a lot of cultural angle to it. Now this, how did I come to know that? When I started discussing her, she's an IB student. I came to know this when I started discussing her IAs and her extended essay. So I just questioned her, because I mostly deal with IB students. I questioned her, what is your extended essay on? She was wanting to do her extended essay last year when she started. She was wanting to do it on the kind of income gap that a certain class of farmers in Punjab have versus the other certain class of farmers in the same state, for that sake. So we happened to discuss that. We moved on to that, and for every subject that I happened to discuss with her, or the way I noticed that she is approaching things in because she was also the school captain, and the way she was approaching things, it was so ideal to see that she's such a good fit for a good liberal arts institution. She was not aware that liberal arts institutions, hardcore liberal arts institutions, exist. Her sister was Northeastern, and her goal was, I have to get into Northeastern, right? And she had not thought of it. So, and she is some one person who was able to, who was able to work in smaller groups, who was able to do better in smaller groups, because when she was in her math class, she was struggling because math class had a whopping 80 students, but the economics class had 12 students. She was able to speak better. The teacher had a different kind of a feedback. So, why am I giving you this example? Is that for any counselor to be able to decide what is a good fit for a student, you do need a 360-degree feedback. So, it's not just the student that you have to look at, you have to talk to the teachers also, and you have to look at the family background as well. What is it that the parents are ready for? So, when she finally made it to CMC this year, the problem that I faced after that was that though it is near to California, it is not California, California, the heart of the city. So they were like, she'll not have enough opportunities. Northeastern Boston will give her a lot of opportunities. So and I took that time because I had observed that student. So I did take that time to tell them that, okay, fine, but your child is not a child who will probably, go ahead and really thrive in larger groups. She's someone who will be better off in smaller classes, more concentrated groups. She'll be able to showcase herself much better that ways. So, for me, to be able to find a good fit means I am involved with my student 360 degrees. Then nothing is out of touch. Everything that the student does is what I am concerned with. Every friend that you make, and I think I'm able to, in my office, I'm able to provide that kind of a freedom to my students, that they can come up and talk to me about it. So that
Wonderful.
really gives me an upper hand with respect to finding the best fit. And trust me, there's no mechanical process for it.
That's great to know, and I am so happy that there's so much of accessibility. I'm not saying that it's not true for other schools or any other place, but sometimes the teacher, like the student to counselor ratio, is so high that students feel little like they don't feel as connected to their school counselors as they should be. So I think this is something that I would definitely like you to stress and probably tell the students of the importance of connecting with your school counselor, whichever school you are from. Why is it that important despite having an independent counselor, which I am not against? I'm just trying to understand, why should one stay connected with their school counselors? Why should the school counselor be abreast of activities that you're doing as a part of your portfolio and all the good stuff? If you could just elaborate that, I think that will be a great point for everybody who is listening and viewing as well.
So before I actually answer your question, I would like to give a little bit of setting here. I come from a residential school. So place that I'm working in, I'm at a residential school. So we are practically with students 9 months out of 12. And 24/7 we are with students. That means a Sunday is working, a Saturday is working, every other day is a working day for us. Unless we are, off the school grounds for some reason for some time. So that really helps. To me, that really helps because I have constant access to my kids. And from the student side also, what really happens is, because they do not have their parents around all the time, they really rely on you for everything. So we are more like, parents to them, instead of just being teachers. And it's not just about the counselor that I'm talking. It is also the teachers, other subject teachers, the class teachers, the coordinators, the other counselors, the behavioral counselor. So for a residential school, for people like us, where we are in that kind of a setup, it's a very different setting. Coming to your question, why is it important for the students to feel comfortable? Now, that is something that is an effort from both the ends, from the counselors and from the students. And how comfortable do you feel with them? But talking to your counselor, yes, it is something that the student must initiate. Reason being that if something has to be put across to a university, and if it comes from your school counselor or your school career counselor for that matter, it is taken in more sincerity, more seriousness. And because your school counselor knows the university, that is the person that is connecting you to the places that you want to go to after your grade 12, there is a lot of credible information that you will get from the person. So instead of just Googling things, reading different varieties of information without any background, and drawing conclusions based on what other people who've gone there had their experiences, and then sitting on it and crying and maybe laughing or being overconfident about it, please get to the real world, talk to your counselor, because that person can really give you the right kind of input. Knowing you, she will be or he will be able to give you the right kind of input. Because for some person, an XYZ place could be a great place. For you, it might not be. For example, the previous example that I told you, the elder sister, she was thriving, she's doing a double major at Northeastern. The younger one, I know she wants to do economics with philosophy, and she'll end up doing it. So yeah, very different people. You could be sisters, you could be siblings, you could be twins, you could still be different people. So go ahead, listen to those questions, ruminate on those questions, get your answers, which are the best for you. It's a very, very individualized approach that your school counselor can give you. So please connect with the school counselor. There's no other way about it, I should say.
What is the ideal time frame in which a student, like, if you had to just put a timeline, because of course students are
Mm,
also very busy doing stuff, so what's an ideal
mm,
frame after which, let's say, 2 weeks or 4 weeks, where you can just slide into your counselor's office, or maybe seek an appointment and say, hey, I want to keep you posted on all the things that I did from our last meeting to now. What's that ideal time frame that students should be looking at, so that they build that bond with the counselor, and more than
mm.
anything, the school counselor is a very integral part of their journey, rather than just somebody who comes towards the end to write the LORs and upload the transcript.
Uh, okay, honestly, there's no ideal time. I don't think so. There's any ideal time. And I really want my students to retain that sense of excitement at everything that they do, or they're not able to do, also for that matter, right? So yesterday, what happened? They just had their trial exams before the IB exams, right? And we had a lot of discussion. 75 students. We had a lot of discussion with respect to how will they do in their math paper, especially the HL ones. That makes it approximately 60 students. Yesterday, the HL students got all their papers. Some of them did really well. Some of them did not do as well. Some of them really improved from the last time. So I'll tell you, I was in sessions also, and I happened to sit in the corridor where grade 12 is. So right in front of my office, there are grade 12 classes. Okay, so just dropping in and saying, "That's my score this time." Oh no, I dropped this time. And or if they see that I am in a meeting, they just slide in sticky notes with their name, they score. They were doing that. So I really feel that as a counselor, and I don't mind giving them extra time for this at all. I am there to listen to you. My office is beanbags and chocolates and round tables. That's all my office is. uh, Even rugs now, because the idea was, please add in rugs so that we can sit comfortably here and talk to you about things. So the idea is to give them that comfortable space. I honestly do not follow a timeline. You get something, you don't get something, feel free, come and talk to me. If I'm busy, slide a note to me. I will ensure that I call you. So I do that, I do extend that time, right? So I don't feel that I should have a certain timeline that I do it for. But in case, but again, my USP here is that I have, say, what, 75 students to deal with. Other schools, other counselors will have more than 100 or 200 students to deal with. So therein you probably need to make a timetable, because otherwise you'll be perennially working day in and day out. They would want to talk to you. So I think every, if you can, at least once in a month, if you can meet every student, that would be a good this thing. And start talking to them pretty early is also what I feel, so that they start connecting with you, because the connect to develop and stay strong, it takes a little time. So probably start with a grade 8 or a grade 9, whichever way the school functions. Give them time, at least, like, so if, say, for example, from grade 8 to grade 12 you have 200 students, it is going to be difficult for you to talk to every student every month. So maybe you can, take 2 months and at least talk to the student once every time. Or maybe for a grade 12 you can increase the frequency a little, talk to every student at least once a month. And for the lower grades you can make it once every 2 months. So I think that should be a good frequency for them. So the idea is that if you have a school counselor with you, uh, please go ahead and try to approach them at least once every 2 months, or in case the counselor is giving you the time. For the counselors, I'd say that if you have a certain number of students, for the lower grades, if you can meet them once every 2 months, and for the higher grades, with wherein the applications are more imminent, you can probably meet them once every month. Would be great, because why is it important for you to meet your career counselor? Because that is one person who will be able to ensure that, a, you get the credible information, because Google has a lot of information. What to believe, what not to believe, you can't really sift it out properly. Secondly, if anything, that if your counselor knows what is to be done, I mean, how is it that you are as a student, and what is the kind of information that you need, and what is the kind of information that the university might want to know about you, and if it goes from the school, it becomes far more credible, rather than you just talking about it. So it's important for your career counselor to be a very, very, integral part of your journey.
Let's proceed with the next question. So, do school counselors speak with admissions officer? This is one of the most asked questions by my students. Like, do they have that kind of a rapport? I'm not saying insider trading. That's not what I mean. But do they have, do they speak with admissions officer? Do they know what admissions officer are looking for in the current cycle? Because cycle by cycle, the requirements change depending on the number of application, the score, whether it's SAT mandatory or not. So do school counselors speak with admissions officer, and do they have the most current insight, so as to say?
Okay, okay. This is like the secrets of my trade, but I will let it out. Yes, we do. We do. And with pleasure. Also, from the universities end, there are a lot of universities who have taken up this mantle to ensure that they reach out to schools also. And when I say a lot of universities, a lot of so-called good universities, in the conventional way, good universities are reaching out to school counselors and to schools, because they also want students who are a good fit for them. They also don't want students who are misfits. Not saying that they are not the right or the bright students, just that they're not fit for them. Why do they seek that kind of information from a school counselor? Because they know that the counselor knows the kid. Therefore, the kind of match that will be made will be a better match. So, for that reason, yes, we do. And for a fact, when our kids apply, and this is very common for the US institutions, we actually do get statistics from them every application cycle. right? In males, we do get those details that these many kids applied, these many were offered, these many finally enrolled. And later, at a later stage, it is also available for the students to look up as a class profile. They can any day look up what was the mean ICT score that they got in with, what was the kind of financial aid that they received, or the scholarships that they received, how many of what kind of ethnicity came in. So all of those things are provided as information by the university to the school counselors. And now, I mean, in the past 4 years, 5 years, especially during COVID, what I saw was the exchange of emails was far higher, and the frequency at which we were getting responses was also much better. And that streak, I think, is continued. So now, when we seek information from them, they do oblige us, they do go ahead and respond, and most of the universities are happy doing so. In fact, that also gives us a kind of, um, for the universities, and what I've heard from my friends working for the universities, is that that also gives them an idea of what kind of a school it is. So if a student says that I'm from XYZ school, now the admissions officers, or at least the university reps who will eventually take your application to the admission officers, or the people who will read the application, have an idea about what kind of school it is, depending upon what kind of questions are being asked. So that really put things in perspective. So yes, we do, and it's important part of our job.
Wonderful. I'll actually validate something from you. So I will not name a student, but this is a real life case from a very established school here in Bombay.
Mm-hmm.
She was applying to Princeton. Okay, the student was an excellent student. Grades great, SAT score 1550, profile excellent. And the school counselor there thought that there is a very high chance of her making to the Princeton. This was her words verbatim, right? And then she
Mm-hmm.
got a reject from the Princeton. So the student was completely like, oh my God, my dreams are shattered. And
Mm-hmm.
she actually wanted to know the reason of rejection. So she she kind of asked the school counselor. The school counselor is just hang on, I will find it out for you. According to the school counselor, she called the admissions officer responsible for admissions at Princeton for this particular area, and they figured out that it was a dip in her 11th grade score that put them on the fence. So everything else worked for them. Wherein the grades, like the overall grades were great, SAT was great, the profile was great, but is the 11th grade score. Again, the reason of that was it was a COVID batch, meaning the transition from an offline school to an online school, and that entire your headspace around that. And which is why the school counselor even stood up for her. She even wrote a letter saying that please don't consider this as a this as some this as a benchmark for the student, because the student is beyond that. Do you think students school counselors stand up for students like this if they have known them for this long, or this is an uncommon practice? This is something that I heard from the parent. I don't know, but this is I just I mean, the reason I'm again asking these questions is it's important for students to know the connect of a school counselor with an admissions officer, because they are the bridger. At least I believe they are.
I so Two parts. Can school counselors do this? Yes, they can do this. Do school counselors do this? Yes, we do. And honestly, I'll tell you, and it's very human, I guess, Rima. It's very human because in the course of time, whatever you do, you will end up, knowing all your students' capabilities, and certain students, because they're working hard, they're far capable. You will develop a liking for them because you see them constantly working very, very hard. You're telling them something, then there's so much pressure from the parents, from the teachers. You understand what they're going through, and then you do want to stand up for them, and it's very common. It's like, for a certain period of time, it feels like you're fighting for your own child. So yes, we do write to the university seeking reasons. And then we mostly do get answers, because I'll tell you what mostly happens in my case, right? For the Indian universities it happens a lot. So these Indian universities want to, want us to send our kids for like 2 days, 3 days to travel to a certain place, and then write their entrance examination. So if a boarding school student does this, that means the student is losing out on 3 days, 3 4 good days of school, right? Traveling, going there, staying there, doing the exam, coming back, 4 days of school gone. I can't send my students like this. I mean, 4 days of school really matters, and then they have other n number of things also to do. So, really putting up a case. Now, though, I have a proper email draft with me that I send out to the universities that, listen, unless very very important, my kids will not travel. So please, you have ties up with all sorts of agencies. We have all sorts of technology available. You tell us, I will get the exam done here. So we are practically centers for everything, from Pearson to SAT to AP to Cambridge to Oxford, you name it. I will make my school a center. Just tell me on time, and but I will not let my student travel unless there's no other option. So maybe, if it is a pen and a paper way, so it has to come up from you. It has to come up from the school counselor, and I guess that is where we end up making the difference. You have external counselors, and then you have school counselors. That is the place where the difference comes in, because that extra mile, as a school counselor, only you can travel. Nobody else can. Sometimes not even parents.
No, and this is a great point you brought up, that as I always say, students think of school counselor as somebody who's just going to upload your LOR, right? Or somebody's just going to put your transcripts. But they are more than that. They're your
Yeah.
gatekeepers to a good university. That's what I tell all my students. Please go and tell them. At the end of the day, even if you don't get the answers, they will, for questions that they are
Yeah.
seeking answers to, And like
Yes.
I said, in the student's case, at least the family was rest assured that my essays were great, my LORs were great, everything else was great. This was the reason, and this is something nobody had in control because of the COVID batch. But again, again, to all the viewers and listeners, please go and network with your school counselors. Make them a very integral part of your journey from early on. They are your gatekeepers, but more than anything, they are, at the equivalent level of probably your parents, because at the end of the day, they are going to be the one who are rooting for you and fighting for you, when push comes to a shove, or otherwise also. So that's perfect. Ma'am, my next question to you is, how important are brag sheets? Every year, students just at the onset of writing an LOR come with a brag sheet, and sometimes those brag sheets are excruciating long, sometimes they're real more concise. But students come and say, I don't know what to write in the brag sheet. And most of these students have at least done 20, 25 sets of activities, and they're like, how is this brag sheet important to write my LOR? And I'm like, okay, I don't know, let's find out. So if you can tell us, one, how important are brag sheets, and two, what should a student keep in mind while writing these brag sheets, and three, how counselors use brag sheets to put in the LOR, or to fill out the LOR that is there, because again, not every student may have been in touch with you throughout.
Absolutely. And I can really vouch for it because I joined the school recently, like it's just been a year and a half now. And my first batch, I didn't know them much. So I have a very, I cannot say they're not important. Some people, but I have, in my practice, I have really transformed the brag sheet into what I call the student self assessment. So it is a longish assignment kind of a thing, but I give them a lot of time. That means my grade 11, that will come to grade 12 in May, already has the SSA with them, and they are filling it up even right now, because some questions, so there is a table where they can fill up the thing, their activities. There is the that kind of a objective space where they'll write their name, their details, places they wish to apply to, and what teachers do they want the LOR from. But then the larger part of that assessment is, because it's for your reflection. I don't tell them it's for anyone else, it's for your reflection, because that I have made it in, for the students, keeping in mind that this should also help you write your essays. And the larger idea is that your essays or your SOP and your LOR will all be in a single thread, right? So it I mean, it cannot be like the LOR is talking about something else and you are in a completely different country with your essays and your SOPs. That should not be, right? So it also has questions like, what do you value and why do you value it? It also has questions like, if you had to tell yourself, and I've picked it up from all the different universities, the shorter questions and all of that. uh, if you were to write a letter to your younger self, what will you say? And it at the end of it, so by August they have to submit it back. I mean, they have to complete it, basically keep it with you, not really submit it back. The idea is that they should have a personal journal. That's the idea. So you take your summers, you think. In fact, it's usually with them for a good period of 6 months. That means whenever you get time, you write something and then you close it. If you're not able to find an answer to something, come back to me, or go back to your behavioral counselor or your parents for that matter, talk to them and see if you can find answers to that. But ensure that, I always tell them. So, for example, there's another question that I have. If you have to describe yourself in three adjectives, what would those adjectives be? Initially, the students used to write three adjectives. Then I added another part. Why? Now that caused a problem. Okay, why did you add that why there? So, but that why was a very important part of it, because they were just writing random fancy adjectives about themselves. And when I asked them a why, that really took them like 10 steps back. Now, why is this lady doing this? So it was very painful for them. But later on, when they had to write the essays, they're like, okay, fine, you did the right thing. So for me, brag sheet is a very extended version of self assessment. Keep it with you. You are not supposed to give editing rights to anyone for it. I will only have the viewing rights, and whoever is the teacher who's supposed to write your LOR will only have the viewing rights. Only you can edit. This is your sheet, this is your journal. And I do assure them that nobody apart from three or four of us is looking at it or talking about it, and we don't really, as teachers and mentors, we have made it a point that we do not, because we will read everything about a student, things that they have never spoken to about anyone, to anyone. So we don't talk about one student to the other teacher, or to someone else, or to the other student. So yeah, that needs to be there.
That's a great insight, and I think I love the fact that at least at Good Shepherd the brag sheet is given so much in advance, because I've seen so many schools where brag sheet is usually a 12th grade phenomena, meaning as soon as you're inside the school for your grade 12, the brag sheet's given there, and then there's so much stress about brag sheet because you're right about it but you don't know. And most people, I think, with this generation, the problem is they know themselves but they really don't know themselves, which
Yeah,
is a very
they'll not be able to
confounding
express it at
phenomenon.
all. Yeah, yeah. So for them to have that kind of a space, think about it. And I actually have classes with them wherein I give them the time, I make them sit on the floor. You have your laptops, you think you want to listen to music and do it, listen to music and do it. I will, kind of create that atmosphere for you. But take time, quietly with yourself, do it. So even if it takes like 1 hour for one question.
Perfect. Another question I have related to LOR itself. So usually it's one counselor LOR that goes in, and then sometimes one or two teachers, depending on the university that they are asking. But this is another one of the most asked questions. I have a lot of students who've done these summer schools, and they're really prestigious ones, right? Like Beaver from MIT. This last year, I had this one student who we were dealing with SATs, and he had gone to JHU, Johns Hopkins, for a summer
Hmm.
school, and built a great rapport with people over there, and kind of convince the teachers or the professors over there to write an LOR for him. So how do we include an external LOR, because not all colleges that you kind of apply to give you the provision of putting in an external LOR.
Hmm.
So, and if an external
Hmm.
LOR is coming from a professor at a JHU or an NYU, that's of course going to, I'm assuming, hold a lot of water. So, if
Yeah.
somebody wants to put an external LOR from somebody where they've genuinely worked or attended a summer school or done an internship, how can a student go about doing that?
Okay, I'll tell you how have I done it. Right. So there's a space on Common App that you can ask for external LORs that everyone knows about. Right. When I've had students who have been to summer schools or who have done some really prestigious internships under professors who have been either teaching there or have graduated from those places, I tell them, if you're asking for an LOR from them, ask them to directly email it to the university, not to give it to you and then you give it to them, right? So that's one thing that I do. In case that it is from a person who does not know the uni, who cannot, but so for example, a student of mine had an LOR from Javed Akhtar. Now, Javed Akhtar will not be able to email it to the university, right? So we as school connected with him. We got the LOR, and in the same trail, we forwarded the LOR to the uni. So I really wish to maintain that streak of, that the student has not read it or has not influenced the writing of the LOR any which ways. So I kind of try to do that. If there is no other way out, then obviously the students take it from the referee and then send it across, or I take it from the student and then I send it across. So the idea is that I should have my involvement here, so that it goes from me, not from the student. That's how I do it.
Wonderful. So that's a great point for everybody. Anybody who has an external LOR, either have the person send it directly to the university. If the student, I mean, if the person doesn't know the university, go ahead and speak with your college counselor. They will solicit it from this particular person and send it to the university. And the universities will read that anything, something like this, right? Like, because a lot of people come
Yeah.
back saying that we put in so much effort. So I hope the university does read it. So that's great to know. One more question that I have, ma'am, is oftentimes students come and they are like, you know what, like my scores are kind of okay, I mean they're decent, not great, not very low, not very high, but like my extracurricular profile looks great. I've gone to like 10 international competitions in robotics and done 5 summer schools, and I don't know, I'm just giving you examples. And at least my understanding of this is academics tops it all, right, more than anything. But what's your take on this, and what would you advise students who are stretching too thin, doing too many activities, and are this eventually resulting into lower academic scores? What's your take on that?
Okay, so I have something called an anonymous board on in my office, right? So when I'm not here, people are free to pick up a pen and write anything. And I also have a place where they can stick on things on my door. Any message that they want to give to me and all of that. What did the previous batch do? Because I had said this so many times over in every session that I had with them, they actually wrote it. Nothing replaces your academic scores. It's still there at the door. So you could be going to the moon and coming back. It will not replace your academic scores. As simple as that. And I have no better explanation for it. You've already explained it. It's never about a long CV, it is always about a deeper CV. And I give them that analogy a lot. And I kind of draw a sine curve and tell them that, there are n number of activities that you do. There will be certain activities that will have more concentration that you have to do it, and some others you'll not be very good at it. So don't try to stretch yourself to an extent where you are breaking down, because unless and until academics are in order, nothing else is happening for you. So it's really really important, and I had this very good example this year. I had two students of mine who applied to babson for ed2. All right. And one student is a 42 predicted, the other is a 43 predicted. Hardly any difference. All right. But this one, the one that had a 43 higher predicted, technically 1 point IB does make a difference. The 43 student was not doing very well in grade 11, was not doing very well in grade 10 also. Something happened the moment he came to grade 12. It was a complete switch on for him. And he's been, on a roll since then. But the one who had 42 had always been a bright child. He got his acceptance.
So consistency is the key to most things in life.
It is any day. So you might be doing two activities, you should be consistent, and nothing is replacing academics, please.
I'm so glad you kind of spilled it out, because a lot of times people just want to do activities, and more than I think students, it's the parents here, because they feel that if you
Oh
don't
yes.
do, I think, more than student pressure, parent pressure and peer pressure is legit. Like, I think students don't talk about their profiles as much as parents do, because they're like, oh, this student is doing this and my child has to do something like this, and sometimes, or it's all under the hushed voices. Oh, like, I'm never going to tell somebody what my student is doing, which is, I
Yeah,
think, is
this is
ridiculous.
practice, not just for activities. I'm telling you. I mean, I might sound have, however, I might sound, but it is not just for activities, Rima. Trust me, it is also for the universities that you're applying to. I'm applying to these. I will not tell the others. You also please don't tell the others. I mean, as a counselor, I'm definitely not discussing you with anyone else. That is true. But they are friends. You have a different profile. The other one has a different profile. In fact, discussing it and being a little open will rather lower down the pressure on you.
True.
So be very comfortable with it. Somehow they're not. The idea of competition is so wrongly placed in their heads and in the parents' heads also. And one thing that I tell all the parents every year is that please stop relating your prestige to the college that your child goes to. You cannot do that. It's a lot of pressure. I had a student who was like, if I do not get into Barnard, this girl was like, if I do not get into Barnard, miss, my father will not buy the car that he sold for me to go to college. Hello, a different level of pressure. And the parent was telling the child that constantly.
My God. I actually pity the child. I'm smiling at this point in time, but honestly, I can just think of her state of mind when, parent is saying that to a child.
Imagine, and I was done to a certain point that I actually sat the child down. I was like, listen, it's not up to you to get that car back. It's up to you to enjoy what you do and do it the best way that you possibly can. Then I actually called the parent. I was like, why are you doing this? Please stop it. And the parent was like, but I have made so many sacrifices for my child. I love my child. Everything agreed. You have a wonderful child also. Be thankful for that. Going to Barnard is not going to define your child or you for that matter. And it was like, yes, it was a conversation that happened that day, almost like 45 minutes we were on a call. But I think steadily it did went on to make a difference in him. But you get these kinds of parents every year. It's
I
not a
can
one
imagine.
time phenomenon. Yeah.
I can imagine, because it's just so much a conversation, and with WhatsApp, everybody on the same group, there's this, it's just this clout of, oh, if somebody is doing, I also have to do it. This is something that I also, like, I had this one parent I was talking to, I was teaching the student, and I developed great familiar relationships with the family. And I told them, you know what, I know I'm losing business by saying this, but I think, this child shouldn't go to the US. He shouldn't go. I'm not talking about the ability or the intellectual ability. I think emotionally he's too raw to go to the US at this juncture in time. And the parents are like, no, but he'll be left out, all his friends are going. And
Mm,
eventually he did end up going to one of the schools. In less than 3 months, he came back. 3 months.
I know that happens. And I mean, yes, we're chatting right now. I think we've taken to that tone by now. But there was this one year, right before COVID, I had 12 students who applied to UMass Boston. Everyone obviously got into UMass Boston, and everyone went there. Half of them came back in 6 months. And all of them applied because the friends had applied. They all wanted to be, close by. They wanted to feel like school there. So they all applied together. They all came back, and the parents were like, and the parents of those kids were also like, no, because your friends have applied to UMass Boston, you also apply there, you go there, and you stay there, and you study there, and I will not have a problem if you're there with your friends. Otherwise, I'll have a problem sending you to the US. That was a different kind of a pressure, and they were all boys. They went, six of them came back.
My God. So yeah, I mean that's also another very important point for the parents out there who are listening. Please listen to your child. Not going abroad for a university is not the end of the world. There are quite a few great universities in the city you live, or probably in India also, where you'll have a lot more access to your child. But it's very important. There
Hmm.
is something which is known as intellectual ability, and there's something which is known as emotional maturity to get away from your family and survive 17,000 miles away from India or wherever it is that you're going. Please assess that before just saying my child has to go. Remember, it's your child's career, which is definitely in your hands, but more than anything, it's your child, it's not a machine. Try to
Yes.
understand them at that level. Nothing is the end of the world. You can anytime restart, and life is too long to make such decisions basis what somebody else is saying. So that's a very important piece of advice, and a great
Yes.
point that you brought out, ma'am. Last two questions before we wrap up. We just have about 12 minutes. What is the ideal amount of colleges that a student should be applying to, meaning a number? Usually from my understanding, it's ambitious, reach, and safe, or different terminologies used for this. But
Hmm, hmm,
what
hmm.
is the number of colleges, and how many should each of these category entail? Yeah, that's something, if you can just brief our viewers.
So this is again going to be a very, very student specific approach, right? But I limit it to 10. Why do I
10.
limit it to 10? Because yeah, and I count UCAS as one application and UCs as one application. So that ways, why? Because then you'll perennially be applying only. You will forget your studies. You'll only be writing answers to the questions. You'll only be listening to, my all everything that I have to tell you, all the gyan that I have to give you, sitting in my office, and I'll be editing essays. Yeah, and you'll be like, this lady is always up to kind of deleting all the essays. So yeah, I really do limit it to 10, and it has to be a very, very thought out stuff. So what I ask them for is, make a long list first, okay? And there's no limit to the number of colleges that you can put into the long list, right? So they make their list of ambition. Then we kind of, every student, I think, takes 2 to 3 meetings and one with the parent, and then we shortlist it and we bring it out to a 10. Sometimes it moves on to 11 for some students, because sometimes legacy comes into question, sometimes SATs or no SATs come into question. So different things matter. So yeah, but usually on an average, it's a number of 10. I do not encourage anything more than that. And 10 is including all countries, because I don't want you to, carry on till January, February, still doing applications. Finish it off in November, December.
Perfect. And how many, like, what would be a good split in this? Like, how many ambitious, how many reach, how many safe amongst these 10 universities? What's your take
Yeah,
on that?
so when I tell them about the ambitious universities, keep it to two, maximum three. Four of them should be your well within reach, and at least 3 to 4 of them safe options. That's how I go ahead and tell them to divide.
Perfect. And ma'am, as a university counselor, or school counselor, how do you make an ideal match for a student? Like when you look at a student's profile, one is of course the intangible factors, wherein the personality, like you said about the liberal arts earlier in our conversation.
Hmm.
That's one part of it. The personality and the traits and the kind of student he is. But the concrete stuff, right? Like the academic score, the test prep score, the activity list. What is a school counselor's mindset when they say that, hey, I think you're a best fit for, say, a Columbia? I've actually met a few university counselors who've downright said, hey, you can go for Columbia but not Cornell. And I always wonder, what is it that you're thinking? Because at the end of the day, there is some rationale when you're saying you should go for this Ivy League and not that. So if you could just spill those beans, that would be perfect.
Yeah. So my so-called brag sheet helps me a lot there. because I have these questions right from, what kind of a classroom setting do you like? Are you open to working beyond hours? Are you looking forward to a more urban atmosphere around you? What kind of opportunities are you looking for beyond college hours? How do you like making friends? What is the kind of friend group that you have? So these questions that I have on the student self assessment, these questions really help me to kind of decide. So when I would probably differentiate between a Columbia to a Cornell is rather deeper into the spaces, and Columbia is pretty urban as an as a place, and as a city also for that matter. So I will look into these aspects as well. So for the first timers, I will say, I do give them, so I share a lot of emails with them. So it's very commonly said here that some it's she kind of gets into that wake of sending emails, and she will send you emails like seven of them, eight of them on a single day. So I do that, and in time they have started to understand that my emails are important and they need to look it up. What I do is, I actually share folders or PDFs of class profiles with them. So now the class profiles will start coming in one by one, right? I'll create a document of it. I will start sharing it with them. And I'll say, when you're creating your long list, look at this. So they will look at the mean SAT scores. They will look at the GPAs. They will look at, so that work they will do. The rest of the thing I will do.
Okay, wonderful.
So
But
that
it's
kind of makes them a little more informed.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's an educated, informed decision when you're applying. It's not
Yes.
just pure hearsay or aspirational, because sometimes that could be. It's not a very good place to be in when it's aspirational, but your scores don't support it. There's no way on this earth, you're going to make it there. Whoever you know, it doesn't matter. You may know the trustee also. I was talking to one of the most affluent families here in Bombay, and the student was not doing very well. And they're like, "Oh, but I know the trustee," and I said, "Yeah, give it a shot if you can." There at the university, right? They knew it because very affluent, right? And but the student didn't make it. So
That won't happen. I don't know. I think, I think the Indian, I won't say Indian, somehow I think the South Asian mentality is giving them that vibe that, okay, if you know the trustee, it'll probably help you, because I'm really dealing with students of the who's, I mean, kids of the who's who here in this school, and they know someone or the other, and everybody knows someone or the other. So one of these kids got into Northeastern and was after me. Now I want to apply for the honors program. Now this is funny, okay? I want to apply for the honors program. I kept on asking him. So he's a bright child, no doubt about it. Very bright, very good at math. He's a natural at math. He wants to do MIS, okay, and everything is in place. But that very instinct to work hard and study is not there. Okay, so he's like, if someone will tell me, I'll do it. But if you ask me to do it, I'll not do it. I'd rather sit and chill around. Okay, and he wanted a university in Boston, so Northeastern kind of really fitted the bill for him. He got into there, and now he wants to apply for the honors. I was like, Harun, tell me one thing, Vijay. You will not study. You also know that. I also know that. Why honors? He kept on evading my question for a very long time. Then I was like, I'll call your dad. No, don't call my dad. Why? What happened? Why honors? Tell me. And you will not imagine the answer that boy gave me. He's like, it has better housing. I will get an entire suite for myself to live in, and my father will talk to the trustee. Like, try. Okay, try. He did not make it. Obviously, he did not make it. But you look at the reasons that they can have. So it's very unpredictable what they can think of. To bring them down, to simmer them down, and make them understand that even if you get that, the amount of effort that you are ready in your head to put in will not be enough for you to sustain in that program. Now, yes, he's understanding that. He'll probably not pursue it any further. Or I'm just expecting he'll see the kind of competition, he'll be motivated and he'll start doing better. But yeah, talk about weird reasons.
no, I think it's very I mean, I think all these are supports, like, like if you have everything else going on your profile, yes, maybe a trustee's letter could help you, but a trustee's
Yeah.
letter is not a substitute of good scores or good test scores or all of that. It's not a substitute. That's something that, very very few people understand. And just because you know somebody, I actually met somebody who knew the guy, Tandon School of Engineering. So it's actually Tandon School of Engineering. It's an Indian guy who established the NYU engineering department. He's like,
Yes.
oh, I know the family, and they'll give me a letter of recommendation. I said, great, you know it. They'll give you a letter of recommendation, but it can only help you so much. Your academic scores don't support a normal batch of what NYU would hire at the Tandon School or Tandon School, whatever you would call it. I don't think the letter will help. So again, he would have gotten it if he would have had the scores, but a trustee's letter is not a substitute of good scores. This probably this is a system that goes on in some of the countries including India, which is why, I mean, and in India also it's legit, right? There's something which we call it as management quota, meaning
Hmm.
people pay for it. It's not hidden or under the table where, somebody's sliding in some money and you're getting the seat. People take money and they give you the seat. It's a trustee's seat or trustee's quota, but which
Yeah.
unfortunately does not apply to the West, and that's something that, students don't understand. But that's great, ma'am. Any parting words for students, viewers, listeners, that you have, something, any piece of advice, two or three, which students should keep in mind in this entire journey, which is extremely overwhelming, tiring, hardworking, and sometimes laden with, heartbreaks when you get rejections. So any parting words, ma'am?
I guess just two things. Have faith in yourself. Have more faith in yourself. And this is not the end of the world. For the good and for the bad. Even if you've gotten into what you aspired for, this is not the end of the world. I mean, you could be from the best of the institutions in the world. But if you stop putting in the hard work, it won't work out for you. So your college or your university is what you make out of it. It's not what they turn you into. So I guess they should always keep that in mind.
Wow, that's actually that's pretty deep at whatever level you would call it. You are who you are, and you are who what you make of yourself. A college
Yes.
or a university is a support in making you that, but at the end of the day, you are who you are. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time. I truly appreciate it.